What's going on, guys? AoD Boujack here, breaking down what to me is my personal favorite deck of set 13, King Vegeta slash King Vegeta, head of the Saiyan Rebellion. I want to go ahead and go off with this leader first because I actually feel like this deck's going to be around 1-5 or 1 tier. I definitely believe it is in contention for the best deck in this set. I definitely think it can run with King Piccolo for the best red deck in the game when the next set drops. So in case you're not familiar with it, I've been testing around with this deck a lot since it came out. When you place this leader down, like a blue baby, you got to play your field card, which is called Young Invaders from the deck. Your leader is auto. When it attacks, you get to look up the top 5 and add 1 mono red same card with energy cost of 5 or less among them to your hand. He's actually got a unique awaken trigger. When you or your opponent's life is at 4 or less, you can draw 1 card, switch up to 1 of your energy to active, and add cards from your life till you have 5 left. This can come in handy because you have the possibility of awakening as early as turn 2 most of the times with 7 or 8 life with this leader. On the back side, it's permanent. It helps out a lot. You get to reduce a combo card of all red same cards with 500 power in your hand by 1. All your Young Invaders cost 1 to combo. On the back side, you get to work around that. Auto, when it attacks, draw 1 card. Once per turn, when the power of 1 of your opponent's cards is decreased, you get to choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards and give it minus 10,000 power for the turn. If you build this deck right, you can just neg entire turns into oblivion. So this deck does have potential to even defending its massive bombs. We're going to start with overrun choices because they're pretty much the last thing I added. We got 1 6-drop Mass Saiyan, best overrun card in the game right now. Free 25k stick, wipe 6. Great. For offense, to help finish, I went with 1 Fu, the Dark Banisher. Honestly, if you have a deck that kind of lacks finishing ability, this card really might be the absolute best way to go. Overrun for 4 energy with a total of 8 cards in your drop, triple attack, 25k. Every time your opponent activates a skill, they got to warp an additional card from their hand. So the card that brings this deck over the top to me is the new SS3 Go Hanks Unison. In case you've not seen what this card does, it is 4 specific red, which we're running red yellow. Spoiler alert, probably going in a way that a lot of people aren't with this deck, but you will hit 4 red on turn 4 regardless. Taps 4, it's a 25k dual attack with blocker. When it comes into play, it minuses everything on the board by 25k power, and it goes through barrier. Like, it's kind of ironic that they released in this set a lot of barrier strategies, and SCR in red just literally destroys these decks. Go figure. It's got a +1 when an opponent attacks with a battle card. You get a +1 and you minus the battle card by 25k. So effectively, your Unison pluses on your opponent's turn and basically just throttles an attack because it's got the blocker. So they could swing into the Unison, you minus the attacking card 25, and you gain the marker. Unless they want to combo back up like 20k to actually hit it. So next we did 3 counterplay Yamchas. With the leader ability, you basically can neg out the equivalency of 3 attacks. He minuses 2 things 15, and you get the leader 10. Yeah, this card in conjunction with the SCR just ends games. So next, we went with a untraditional path. I love when SCRs are searchable. Our SCR is searchable now. I went with a 3 Pilaf, Plotting Rule Domination, in case you forgot what this card does and you never played the Pilaf deck. When you play him, you search the top 5 for a Earthling up to 4. No, it's an Earthling up to 5 cost and a red Unison with a specified cost of 4, which is our SCR. Oh, three of those. Violent Rays, two of Dark Broly is a thing. Other than that, this deck will pretty much kneecap anybody. So Violent Rays in this deck is an insurance policy. I've probably played 25 to 30 games with this deck, and I think I've used Violent Rays twice. Two Piccolo Unisons. I see a lot of people running the one drop Piccolo Jr. I don't think this deck needs to cheat stuff out. I think you need extra draw power because a lot of these decks are more mid-range control in this set. And not to mention, he's really good against yellow because every time they counterplay, you just snipe their board. He helps to clear, he helps to draw out the Kai SCR because people hate when you draw extra cards. Like if they use their Kai, your 4-drop SCR is usually safe. Next up, 3 Super Saiyan God Son Goku to the next level. It basically comes in for 1 energy over your Raditz or Goku's 1-drops. He comes down on the board. He's a 19k blocker. At the end of your turn or after you activate the blocker skill, you get to stand this card up. So he's just a red version of Goku hit before drop blue yellow. A reason that I fell in love with the deck, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta at full power. Deflect, most important, double strike. EX evolve for 3. You draw 1 card, EX evolve him over a red Vegeta BR with a 3 cost. This card cannot be played from any area with non-evolved skills. You cannot cheat him out. You cannot play him hard for 5. You must evolve him over a 3-drop. When this card is in rest mode, when your opponent plays a battle card or attacks with a battle card, this is not a once per turn auto. This literally happens every single time. It is minus 10k until the end of their turn. He's also got another nifty little auto that if he gets removed from the battle area by your opponent's skill, they crit a life. Resolving this guy on the field is usually enough with the leader skill to pretty much stop your opponent's next turn, or they have to over combo a tremendous amount of resources into killing him to actually go for game. He can completely swing the balance of games. He is probably, outside of Invoker Vegeta, the best Vegeta card they have printed in this game in a very, very long time. Absolute MVP, and he evolves over probably the best tempo play in the entire deck too, which is our 3-drop Super Saiyan God Vegeta to the next level. He's got unique and unique critical. He's a 19k. Like the Goku for 1 energy, he comes in for Vegeta or a Raditz 1-drop on you or your opponent's side of the field. BR, by the way, not any. So when he's played, you get to search the top 5 and add any red. Doesn't have to be mono red, just any red Saiyan of 5 cost or less to your hand, which is really nifty with the extra draw packages that we're playing in the deck because he literally allows us to search our Heartfelt Plea / Saiyan Lineage play to activate Heartfelt Plea. So he helps us dig through the deck like he's a 19k critical. And if the next card in our deck list is Vegeta the Young Invader, he's got unique. Your Young Invader's field card plays these cards on your opponent's side of the field when they start their turn, but it causes some unique interactions. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this whole package. When you play a Young Invader, you are not allowed to play anything but Red Saiyans for the rest of that turn. When people started testing this deck, they were using this as a trigger to Bardock because your opponent was forced to crit a life. The auto on Young Invaders says you have to play mono Red Saiyans the rest of the turn. Doesn't work. Also, when you get into the late game, you need to be very reticent of using this because you will turn off any counterplays pretty much you have outside of like the 4-drop championship go on. You can't use Yamcha if you bring in a Young Invader. You can't use Topo. Like they have to they have to pretty much hit the field to resolve effectively. So you need to make sure that you can stack and sequence these things properly. When Vegeta's on the field once per turn, when one of your cards is attacked, it gets minus 5k. So if you have Super Saiyan God Vegeta on your side of the field, you swing with him the first time. If your opponent's leader is unawakened, they become a 5k to your 19k critical. With the young invaders, will generally cycle through the first 3 to 4 life of your opponent without them ever picking one of those cards up. Next up is Broly, the young invader. Unique, same base effect. When he comes into play, if your opponent's leader is a red King Vegeta BR, if you're at 5 or more life, you have to crit a life and draw a card. His auto states that if you play a battle card for the turn, you need to warp a card from your hand until the end of your turn. So these guys become a hassle to deal with. And the other joy is that they cost 1 energy to combo. So if your opponent gets annoyed by them, they have to spend the actual energy they use on their turn trying to kill you to simply get rid of them. So now our field card, Young Invaders, we went over the auto timing. So once per turn, you can actually take a life and play one of your young invaders to your side of the field to start your own chains if you want to leave your Vegeta or your Broly on your opponent's side of the field. So it can self-awaken. So the deck has you don't need self-awakeners in this deck. Between the leader condition and young invaders, you can take your life. This also has a unique little thing where if your opponent's got pesky 1-drops on the board, you can tap a red energy on your turn and just minus one of their cards 5k. So they got Kid Q on the board or Toa, Dark Power, Black Mask saying, let's tap an energy and kill it. So best negate coming in red technically isn't a negate. Surprise, surprise. After Image kind of prepared us for this kind of ordeal with this deck moving forward. King Vegeta's Imposing Presence. This card with your leader is nuts. It makes it almost impossible for your opponent to kill you. Counterattack. If your leader is a mono red Saiyan card, sorry Pan fans, you may choose the attacking card, ignoring barrier, and it gets minus 10,000 for the turn. Your opponent cannot attack with cards for the turn. Now, this does not matter if it's Unison, Leader, or Battle cards. It does not specify. They get minus 5,000 power for the turn each time. You can't activate copies of this card from your hand from the turn. So thankfully, they did not allow this card to stack. Here's the messed up part about this card. If your life is at 3 or less, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost and discarding a card. If you stick your 5-drop Vegeta with Imposing Presence on the board, your opponent has to basically super combo just to get up to 15k on swings. Like, it just board wipes. It's insanely effective at playing defense. Like, this deck is the best red control deck we've probably gotten outside of Invoker. So our next card, I went ahead and went a slightly different route. I know a lot of people are probably going to be nuts that I don't play Raditz in this deck. But I went with a support attack Sun Goten at 2. Because not only is it searchable off of our leader, but it's also searchable off of Pilaf. And it's searchable off of our 3-drop Vegeta if we find it. So it increases our consistency of Pilaf while not taking away from the leader and Vegeta. And while it's not quite as good as bottom decking and drawing 2, which sometimes you can miss, I feel like this was a better alternative for the deck. Just to continue defense, I went with 2 Topos. This card feels a little unnecessary, but there's some decks that can severely spam out wide boards very fast, and this card can kind of help you, like early game, just kind of gain control of things till you can actually start clearing the board. I run one Corn Tower Secret Medicine just because I have ran into way too many annoying barrier 1-drops. So let's name one of Secret Spice. Basically, in case you don't know what this card does, you tap 1, and if you use it on your opponent's turn, you neg one of their cards through barrier 5k, and your leader gets 5k for the turn. So with your leader, you can effectively neg a battle card 15 while Senzu beaming. With this card, it actually does a lot better in this deck than almost anything else I've tested. We got 2 Raditz, the Young Invaders. These are the only tournament promos I'm playing in this deck. They are not necessary. You can use the Goku, but the Goku does absolutely nothing. This Raditz still has the effect of if your opponent's at 5 or more life, they have to crit 1, draw 1. So next up, I wanted to address what I've seen as the biggest issue for this deck, which is it doesn't inherently draw greatly. You generally only see 1 extra card per turn, or you're technically hand replacing with like Vegeta. You bottom deck your 1-drop, you play the Vegeta, you search the top 5, so you technically didn't plus. Like the leader pluses, so I wanted to run a package that can gain us a little more momentum. So I went with the good old tried and true heartfelt plea route. We're running 2, could bump it up to 3 for consistency purposes. If you don't know what heartfelt plea is, basically you can sack a red battle card with 25k power or more when you awaken. You play the Goku. Your opponent has to go into offering. Generally, against this deck, they're going to already be at 3 to 4 life because of the Young Invaders, so they're generally going to let you draw, or you're just going to end up critting them out of their 5th or 6th life. Most people don't like to play the game that close on edge, so you're probably going to see your 2 cards off the leader swing. You just plussed at least 2 to 3. We ran a couple check lands. We got 3 Wees the Spectators. And never sees. I like to have this card in hand turn 1. If you see it again, energy exhaust is negated. So we'll go into our first heartfelt target in the deck is SS4 Son Goku Saiyan Lineage. There's a lot of people that do not know this card exists. Just real quick, it's a barrier 3-drop, 15k, 1 red, 1 yellow specified. It's permanent. If your leader is on the front side, you get to reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1. So it comes down for a red and a yellow. It's auto. When your leader activates this awaken skill for the turn, you get to draw 1 card, and this card gains 10,000 power. So basically, you can aggro in this deck too. You can play this card on 2 if your opponent's already at 4 life because of your invaders and a crit Vegeta swing. Swing your Goku. 15, they pitch, they take it, you awaken, you draw you 1 for your awaken, you draw the 1 for the Son Goku Saiyan Lineage, and then they have to answer the heartfelt plea that comes down behind it. Generally, you're going to +4 off of this interaction. So I took the deck, seen a weakness, and incorporated a very strong mid-game draw engine for it. Next up, 2 Whis Celestial Moderators. Red-yellow super combo. When you combo with this card, you neg an attacking card 10k. If you're awakened, it's basically a 30k swing. You get a +10 your leader, and then your leader ability just says -20 on the super combo. Super strong, or if your opponent's spamming, it can literally -2 targets 10. Next up, I wanted to make sure we consistently drew targets for heartfelt, and I wanted to increase our consistency with peel off. So again, another card a lot of people don't know about were these dual color cards they introduced in DB6. This one is Yajirobe, a new ally. Auto, when this card's played, you discard a card, and either you get to play, and all of them did the first effect, which is you can play a vanilla 2-drop from a drop area, or all of them got different secondary effects. Yajirobe says you get to rest a card, and he gains 9,000 power for the turn. Hits the 25k threshold, rest a blocker, heartfelt plea target. And our ideal pitch card in this deck for the long game. And people will probably groan when they see this. We got 3 Grade 8 Son Goku Saiyan Instincts. I generally, every game I test this deck, I resolve at least 2 copies of this card. Some of your turns get a little weird, and just being able to tap the 2 and seeing 2 more cards in this deck ends up being a huge help. If you do not have the 8s, I don't think this deck makes it to the point where it actually gets into the end game against some of these decks in set 13, because these the King Vegeta, like the red in general, King Vegeta and Bardock both have a huge problem with maintaining hand size. Bardock is not playable to me. So Saiyan Instincts is a must-have card in this deck if you're going to play at a competitive level to me. As far as that goes, any slight changes that might be made, Topo could go up, Rays could possibly go up. I tested a lot. The 5-drop Goku underwhelmed me numerous times. Before the Raditz was announced, I wasn't even running the 3-drop Gokus in this deck because the 1-drop Goku really is just a bland 5k combo card. You could increase the Piccolo Unison. I've seen people run, like I said, the 1-drop Piccolo Jr. You can use it if you resolve it properly. You can get a Fearless on the board with one of your Gokus, your Vegetas. I don't think it's a move in the deck, but deck does have serious competitive potential. I would put it right now at an 8.5 or 9 out of 10 for competitive. I believe King Vegeta is going to see tops next set. But thank y'all for checking in with AoD Boujack's introduction series, and I will catch y'all next time.